All right, we're ready to tackle the efficiency of resource use section of the program review data. So the reason we want to talk about efficiency is because that if we're doing well with the money we have, we'll have more money available to do the things that we want to do. So this section is about how we're filling our courses and about how we're using our faculty resources in such a way that we get to break even for the college. That's what we're talking about in this section. So there's a few pieces of information that I want to cover first before we look at the actual table. And that is that if you're looking at your program review document, you're going to see a separate set of tables for fall data, for spring data, and for summer data. It's because you may offer different courses in these different semesters, so you're going to see some different patterns potentially, and that we want to separate out but also include the data, especially if you're teaching summer courses, so we can look at what's going on there. There's two measures we're going to use for efficiency. One is called percent fill. That's how full are your courses of students. And the other one is called WISH per FTEF. So that abbreviation, WSCH, stands for Weekly Student Contact Hours. And it is proportional to FTES. So basically we count up the students who are acting like full-time students who are at the college for a year. So there's 30 WISH make up one FTES. So if FTES makes sense to you, you can think about what the WISH mean as just a number that counts our students up, the total students at our college. Not as individual students, but if they're behaving like a full-time student, 15 units, 2 semesters. FTEF is the faculty load, full-time equivalent faculty load, just like we talked about in the faculty staffing table. The reason we want to make a ratio of WISH to FTEF is that the college gets its money from the state based on how many FTES we have, how many students we have filling up our courses and all the units they're taking. And our main expense that we pay out is salary for faculty. And so this ratio of WISH per FTEF is a measure of the college's income to the college's outgo. And so the standard that VPs of, whichever the thing Lorenz does is, VPs of administrations use as a target for your WISH per FTEF ratio is that in general, a rule of thumb is that the college is breaking even if this ratio is about 525 or above. And we want to hit that for across the whole college. Right? So a balance between all the different departments that enables the college to hopefully meet or be above about this 525. All right. So let me go back and finish explaining what percent fill is. We have a number that's called earned enrollment. That's how many students are actually sitting in your seats in your class. And the max enrollment is how many students that are that section capacity. If when you list that course in WebAdvisor and you say the course max is this, that is what we call the max. That is as many students as you can have. Right? So if you're sitting in a classroom that has 50 chairs in it and the fire code cap for that room is 50, then your max for that course is going to be 50 students. Miss Susie.
Sorry, Bonnie, I just have, I'm just wondering, you said 525 WISH is a target, but that brings it to 17.5 FTEF. And the example I know it was just an example in the previous presentation, but they had an FTEF of 10, right? That was the total.
So that's the total in the department. So we weren't looking at the WISH for that department. We were just looking at the FTEF total.
Okay.
Yeah.
That just seems like a really high FTEF. Is that really high? The 17, is that even right? Because you said it's a ratio, so about 30 WISH is 1 FTEF, so I just divided 525 by 30. To get the...
Yeah, so 17.5 FTES is what this target would be in FTES.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that high?
Well,
Department to meet?
It depends on what department we're looking at, right? And so when we get into talking about what numbers are in the table, what those numbers look like, we'll get into an explanation of why you would be at a higher wish per FTEF versus a lower wish per FTEF. So there's 3 factors that go into what that value is, right? And in the data we were looking at before, we didn't have the wish for that department. So we could just see how much FTEF that department did. We're going to use that same number, but we have to know what courses they're offering, how many students are enrolled in them in order to find out the efficiency number. We were just looking at department size, right? No, good question. All right. So, oh, go ahead.
So weekly student contact hours is usually what? Like, let's say it's 30 students times 3 hours a week, 90 weekly student contact hours per class on average, if that was a 30 student.
Yeah, so if you have a 0.2 load lecture course with a cap or an enrollment of 50 students, so that's going to meet for 3 hours a week. So you're going to have the 3 contact hours a week per student enrolled. So you'll have 150 wish for that course.
So the higher the enrollment, the higher the course cap, the higher the wish.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it also depends on if that course is, if it's a regular lecture course, a 3-unit lecture course that has 0.2 for the faculty load and you have those 50 students, but suppose it was some weird thing where instead of 0.2, the instructor got 0.5, right? So then we're going to be dividing that wish by the instructor's load. So most of our courses are loaded out so that they're really proportional. Your weekly student contact hours is going to be proportional in a predictable way to the load the faculty get for teaching that course. Those things are tied together. There's a few weird situations where there's some odd relationships between those numbers. But I did an analysis for math, and basically as you kept going up in load, the number of students kept going up proportionately. So if those courses were full, it didn't matter whether it was a 3-unit course or a 6-unit course, the wish per FTEF was the same for all of those courses. So that usually there's a fairly fixed proportion of FTEF and wish for standard type courses.
So,
and that's defined by our regulations.
So load does not impact wish, but it does impact FTEF.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So here's another sample table that is showing a variety of different scenarios so that we can understand exactly how these numbers are going to change based on different circumstances. So your efficiency table in your program review data for falls, you're also going to have one for spring and summer. These same variables are used for the faculty staffing tables, but again, instead of being only falls, they're the last 5 semesters, so you'll have spring data in there too. So the top row is our earned enrollment. That's how many students total are sitting in chairs of courses offered by your department that semester. And the max enroll is how many seats were offered in those courses. So our department starts off with 170 earned enroll, and it had 175 max enroll. It filled all of its course offerings exactly to the cap. Unlikely, but here in my example it's possible, so their percent fill is 100%. So if my course is listed as having a class max of 36, as mine is, one of mine is, and I have a soft, kind heart and my students are all begging me to let them in the course, and I accept another 2 students in my course because I'm like, well, one might drop, I don't know, this one's like crying, I'm going to give them an ad code. I can get over 100% fill. Right? So you could get like 102% fill if you take a couple extra students. All right, so if this is a typical 3-unit lecture courses, mostly that are being offered by this department, for those students, we'll end up with 525 earned wish. And that if we have only 1.0 worth of instructor teaching those courses, we will have exactly 525 of our earned wish per FTEF ratio. The reason we call it earned wish is because we only get the wish for the students who actually enroll in the course. So we can also calculate a max wish that would be the one that we'd get if our courses were full. Right? In this case, the earned wish and the max wish would be the same thing because our course is full. Right? We only get credit for the work that we earn. All right, so let's see if we do some different things, what happens to these numbers. Now, we have the same course offerings, so we have 175 as our max enrollment. We've offered these courses, but not all of them get filled, right? So we have only 140 students that are enrolled in our courses, and so that gives us a fill of 80%, because we don't have all of, we have some empty seats, right? That decreases our earned wish, because we don't get to count the empty chairs. And we still have the same load for faculty, right? That decreases our earned wish per FTEF down to 420. So no matter how large our courses are, however many chairs we offer in them, if they aren't filling, then our earned wish per FTEF will go down. Make sense? So in the next example, here we have larger class sizes. So this is a year they increased, or maybe we're looking at a different department. They have larger class sizes. So we're offering, with the same faculty load, we're offering courses where we can seat more students. So now we have the same amount of FTEF, but we have increased the number of students. We have filled 100% of our seats. And so we have an increased wish because we have larger class sizes. We have the same number of faculty, FTEF. And so our earned wish per FTEF is going to go up. Right? So we're above 525 here. If we have the same scenario where our max enrollment is up there at 200, but we only have an 80% fill, because not every seat filled in our courses, we have fewer earned wish. We have the same FTEF. We have a lower earned wish per FTEF because our courses didn't fill. So even though it's possible for us to be over 525 if every seat were filled in our course, we may be below that if our courses don't fill. Right? So there's several variables that go into whether we're above or below 525. One of them is this relationship between what the course is loaded out with and how many hours it meets a week. Fairly standard, but sometimes that's different. The other thing is how full the course is. So the percent fill is really important because if your class is more full, you'll have more wish. You have the same FTEF, so we're always going to have a higher wish per FTEF when our courses are full than when they are not. Right? The third variable is that course sizes. If we have a cap on our course size so that we do not have course sizes that are even big enough that if our courses are completely full, we can even possibly get to 525. So if we look over on the table here, here's an example is if we have a higher FTEF, right? So everything in this column, everything in this column is the same as this column, except instead of having 1 FTEF, it's 2, right? So if we change that denominator, if we increase the denominator, we get a smaller value here. So if we loaded out our classes with a higher FTEF for some reason, the same number of students, we'll have a smaller wish per FTEF. Nate?
I'll wait till you're done. But
Okay. All right, so here we have a scenario in the last setting here where we have much smaller class sizes, All right, so we have the same 1.0 FTEF, but our classes are capped, say, at only 20 students. So we've got this, and they're 0.33 each. So we've only got 20 students in each section. It's completely full, but because each course section is small, we have a low amount of earned wish. Right? We take that small amount of earned wish, we divide it by our 1.0. We have 180 for our wish per FTEF. All right, now that is much smaller than when we have our larger class sizes over here. So we've got 100% fill over here, 100% fill here, 1.0 over here, 1.0 over here. But our wish over here is 525 because we have 35 students in each course section. Right? 35 students in each course section. Here are only 20 students in each course section. So even if it's 100% full, we cannot get to 525 no matter what we do. Right? You can get a higher number if you're filling your courses above 100%. And so here we've got 108%. That does increase the earned wish per FTF, but it still isn't going to get us up to 525. So the magic value is 35 students and 0.2 FTEF. That hits 525 right on the head. So if you are teaching courses in your department where the class max for totally important pedagogical workload reasons is set at a value lower than 35, then your department really needs to focus on your percent fill, right? So that if your maximum possible wish per FTEF, because of your small class sizes, is lower than 525, and that's going to be any courses smaller than 35 students, right? As a college, we can balance out across departments with small class sizes and departments with large class sizes so that the college total is 525 or above. We have departments where we're going to have smaller class sizes, but we need to have enough departments with big class sizes to make up for it. Right? So we can't look at each department by itself, but we need to have a balance between the larger class size courses and the smaller class size courses. So if you do have a smaller class size, then percent fill is really important. That you need to be filling every possible seat because it does help. Right? If you're at it's much better to be at 300 wish per FTEF than it is to be at 200 wish per FTEF. Right? It helps. So now if you have larger course sizes, we're actually right now depending on a few departments across campus that have very large class sizes because of a variety of different reasons. So they have higher than 525 and they're helping to make up for the other departments. In the biology department, we have about 725 is our wish per FTF. And we teach double sections of our lecture courses. So we have 75 students in the room for our 0.2. But then we separate those students out into two groups and have them in labs so we get more of a chance to get to know the students. But it means you have twice as much grading, twice as many students to work with, and you're getting the same load, right? The 0.2 for my 75 students instead of my 36 students. All right, so in summary, your wish per FTF is high if course maxes are large and courses are filling. Your wish per FTF is low if courses are not filling, or if course max is too small. And if course max is small, your percent fill is the more important metric for you to worry about because there's no way that you're going to look at this wish per FTEF and higher is better, but that is going to be the main metric that's going to tell us how well your department's doing managing the college resources. So, yeah, go ahead.
So what percent of the college's classes are small classes versus large classes? Anybody looked at that? Like under 35?
So that I know how to do that and I want to do that. I haven't done it yet, but I can tell you what our college wish per FTEF is, and that'll tell part of the story in a minute. So where is our college at right now overall? So to put your department's percent fill into perspective, this is what the college-wide percent fill has been for a short period of time going back into the past. And we have a fall line that's the dark bars, and the gray ones are spring. And we have academic years, so fall 11, spring 12, fall 12, spring 13, going across. So we have from 11-12 to 16-17, so last academic year. And when we look back to 11-12, when I look at the data across campus for that academic year, basically spring 12 and fall 12, this was the point where we had cut down so many course sections that almost every single department around campus had really high fill rates. And students were squeezing into all of those courses, and not only were they squeezing in, but they were working harder, they were motivated, they were more successful in our courses. And that depended on the economy at the time. We had gradually seen a ramping up of percent fill from 2008 to 2012. Right? Now the economy is more or less recovered, more or less, depending on what's happening in your life. But we've basically seen campus-wide a slight decrease in percent fill, and many departments have been seeing that pattern as well. And there's other things going on here, because as we got into 15-16, we started seeing a decline in enrollment, and we tried to increase our enrollment by increasing our course offerings. So we actually started, we had cut our course offerings between 2008 and 2012, and we sort of gradually started adding more back by 14-15. And 15-16, we added more courses than apparently we had students to fill. So this combination of this continuing slight decrease in students who are showing up at our doors, and possibly a poor job of managing which courses we're offering so that they match with student demand, we had a dip, and you can see that on the graph. Now, always, spring is a little lower than fall. We lose students from fall to spring semester. They do tend to do a little better in their spring courses, though, the ones we keep. So we had a little bounce back in 16-17, but I peaked at the fall 17 data, and we've actually had a little, this trend did not go up. So it actually went up, and it's back down about here now. So trying to match our course offerings with the courses students need to take and that they are signing up for is an ongoing balancing act that the college is working on.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to motivate some bad behaviors here if departments are having low percent fill issues? I'm not naming names, but I've heard of departments that might be like, you know, we're having a percent fill issue, let's reduce our class size count. Let's put a lab component in there or something, thereby taking what's typically a 50-seat class down to 40. That'll improve our efficiency. It's not going to help the WISH issue.
It'll improve your percent fill, but it won't improve the WISH per FTEF. So that's why we don't only look at percent fill. We look at both percent fill and WISH per FTEF. And those small class sizes, we have to have a balance of them across all the different departments. So we can't look at any one class in isolation from how the college is offering all of its options, and that's very challenging to do, and we don't have a history of doing that on our campus. And that hopefully, the more chance I have to talk to departments and everybody around campus about how important it is that the college-wide, we're making, every department tries to do the best job it can of managing its schedule, and that together the college also has to have a process that we evaluate the big picture and we see, you know what, we can't grow this department over here because it has small class sizes right now. We need to grow departments that have bigger class sizes. And the reason I'm saying that is because when I go to the next graph, you are going to see that right now we are below 525 wish per FTF college-wide, and we have not been there for a while.
So if you're a department that has, say, 5 large lecture classes, and you can fill 4 of them to 100%, but the 5th one only fills to like 50%, that averages out right on the other 4. So there's that issue of like we're trying to fill them, but we can't fill every bucket all the way. The 5th bucket only got half full. So we can't exactly
right.
Measure.
So if you have 3 course sections that are half full, you need to cut one.
Right.
The example that you gave, you could sort of go either way on that one.
Will the numbers parse that out as we see that X number are full and there's one that wasn't, or is it the average of them all?
It depends on how the department, the division, and the college want to manage that. So if it's in your portfolio of offerings, but you have a whole bunch of really small class size offerings, I would say probably leave it in because it's big and you are getting a lot of students in it. If it's the only course in your entire department that isn't filling, I mean, I don't know. It's again, where we get into problems with this kind of conversation is that we can't make each of these decisions about one course or one course section in isolation.
Right.
It depends on what your portfolio of offerings is. So in my department, I teach our statistics class, and it has a course cap of 20 students. It used to have a course cap of 15, and I raised it after I started doing these data analyses and going, oh my God, I'm not doing my part. But all the rest of our courses are 36, 50 students, and overall our wish per FTF is 725. We're the highest department on campus. So I don't feel so bad about teaching this. We have this one small course because otherwise we're managing our resources efficiently. It's also a course that's part of our degree. And it's also a course that most students who transfer to San Diego State need as their prep for major. So those considerations need to play a role as well, but departments can't sit there and say, oh, well, we have all these reasons for offering all these courses and all of our courses are small, without having other departments somewhere else making up for it. So there's definitely good reasons that every course has the size that it has, but our college has to be balanced. And that if we look at these numbers, so since 11-12, our fall wish per FTF is a little higher because our classes are more full. We do have a slightly smaller schedule in spring as well. But as you can see, our wish per FTEF has been fairly flat, and it's been hovering around 400, so this line is 400. So we've been below 525 wish per FTEF as a college for a long time. The reason why we're in the black is because international students basically fill in the gap between our revenue from the state and our costs. And there's also some juggling that we've been doing, right? We take the summer and we put it into the last year instead of putting it with the year it's supposed to go with. So we've been running a Ponzi scheme to try and and keep, right? Trying to keep our, that's what it is. I'll pay you for some students today that you don't have until next semester, basically. So the state allows it, yeah. We're not doing it under the rug. We're allowed to do that, but that means we're perpetually behind. So the way that we can improve these numbers overall are to continue to grow our enrollment, and part of our new strategic plan, that outreach component of our strategic plan is basically designed to increase our enrollment, to get students to come to Grossmont instead of going to another college, to get more students coming from high school to come to Grossmont, because this is a long-term trend. Unless we have another recession, which I don't think is a good choice of all of our choices, that there are fewer high school age students in East County than there used to be, and that trend is going down. So the pie is getting smaller, we need a bigger pie wedge. We want to get more students coming from high school. So a lot of that effort is going into trying to increase our enrollment that way. The other way that we can keep our enrollments up is if we retain students. We lose a lot of students. I don't know the exact number, but something like 30%. I don't know, Joan, do you know? 40%? Right, from fall to fall, they come in, or even from fall to spring, they come and they take one class or two classes or three classes from us, and we never see them again. So if we just kept those students and we got them into their next semester, if we got them through their spring and then back for the next fall, then we would be increasing our percent fill, we'd be increasing our enrollments, and we'd also be increasing student success. These are students that would be able to go on and complete their college or even transfer that we're now losing, and they're maybe never going to get that college education that we'd like to offer them. So there's a different reasons that we're doing these things. One is for the financial health of the college itself, but it's also that we will fulfill the promise that we've made as a community college to help get those students in and to help them stay so that they do get the benefits of their college education. So the higher the college wish per FTEF is, the more money we have to do all the things that we'd like to do. Our pay schedule could be higher. We could spend money we could spend money on things that we would like to be able to, more money on student success initiatives, because if we look at the pay schedules of other colleges that are higher than ours, they're getting the same amount of money from the state for each of those students. They're just spending their money more efficiently than we are.